And we are live. So happy Friday, everyone. I hope the sun is shining where you all are. It's just come out here. It's been pissing down earlier. We've got Mike on the call today. Mike is kind of taking 20 minutes out of his day to talk to us about his experience working with us so far in the 1%. By my account, Mike's absolutely smashed it. But, you know, I want you to hear it from his mouth. And he's going to sort of share his experience and what he's achieved so far. So, Mike, do you want to just introduce yourself, who you are, what you do?
Sure, yeah. So my name is Mike O'Keefe. I'm London-based, work for a software company. We provide regulatory software to firms globally. So I guess in my role as head of sales, I speak to customers all times, day or night, and we're a growing company, so it can be a demanding role. It's demanding for everybody in the company, and yeah, so it's a busy life. I've got 3 young girls who are all the apples of my eye. I've got a wife who's got a busy career as well, and yeah, we have traveled, both of us, from time to time as well. So it can be a challenge just trying to get time for everything, for fun, for work, for family, for life, for everything. So yeah, so that's me.
Cool. And so by all accounts, a very busy man with lots going on, right? I think that's fair to say.
Tons going on. I think, like many people that come on this program, you know, everybody's extremely busy all the time, and just trying to find 10 minutes for yourself is the hardest thing in the world at the moment.
Totally. So that being said, Mike, let's sort of kick off. And I think, why don't we rewind to sort of where you were when we very first spoke? So if we rewind 3 or 4 months back into the past, I think you'd maybe seen a few of my bits on LinkedIn, you know, 1 or 2 ex-clients posting and sort of, you know, a bit of my content. What was going on back then, and what was going on that made you decide to reach out and have a chat with me or somebody like me?
Yeah, so I think probably pre having kids, I probably enjoyed going to the gym quite a bit. I had a busy work life. My wife had a busy work life, but there was always lots of time for ourselves. Then I guess you get a bit further in your career, and then also kids come into the picture, and your personal time begins to evaporate. And I guess that had slowly begun to degrade over nearly 10-year period, right? So, every week that passed or every month that passed, I seemed to have less and less time. And it probably got to a point, I want to say a year ago, it was probably maybe even a little bit more than that, where I thought, look, I need to look at something. I need to do something a little bit different. And I think probably the biggest thing for me was that, I felt, part of me was being eroded by not concentrating on some of the stuff that I wanted to do. And I guess the biggest part of that was really, health and fitness initially. I just wanted to get on a program where I guess I'd be able to spend some time doing some exercise, some different types of activity, but also trying to be able to fit it around my life. I wasn't going to be able to commit large amounts of time in the evening to the gym with young kids and with a busy job. So I wanted to look at alternatives. And I guess when I saw some of the postings that were on LinkedIn from your previous clients, they described maybe not the exact same life as mine, but things that I could relate to, and things that were very, very similar to what I was going through. And I think, as part of the, that erosion, I felt, I felt something needed to change, and specifically around fitness. But I think there was more to it than that. I hadn't quite put my finger on it, but I felt that there needed to be some sort of behavior change for me as part of my day to day.
And I think what you're describing there, Mike, like you said, it's not to belittle your situation where you were, but it's an incredibly common narrative with the gents that I tend to work with, but also just life at the moment, right? Busy career, young kids to support, lots going on, and I think we all can end up going down the pecking order of what's important. And it comes from a well-intentioned place, because you want to provide for your family, you want to be successful, and you want to look after all them. But then, like you said, that kind of erosion, if you just slowly start to not take care of yourself, at the end of it, everyone actually starts to get a diluted version of you kind of as a byproduct of that well-intention. And so I think it can be a frustrating place to be, because you don't end up feeling your best, but you're trying to be your best. And it's this sort of a bit of a dichotomy where you get stuck in a negative feedback loop of trying, but because there's so much going on, it's hard to sort of see the wood for the trees, right?
It really is. And I think that was one of the probably revelations of the program for me as well, right? And it's not rocket science, but you got to take a step back and think about it. And that's part of what the program brought to me as well, right? Is that if you're not properly looking after yourself, nobody's getting the best version of yourself. I mean, I wasn't getting the best version of myself for myself. My kids, my wife weren't getting the best version of myself. I'd like to say work wasn't getting the best version of myself, but it probably was because I was committing so much time to it. But who knows? Maybe you've seen some changes there as well.
Yeah, cool. And so then let's fast forward to today, right? So we've done. There's been a lot of work happen. You've done a lot of work on yourself. You've come through the program and process. What have been your key successes and achievements then to date so far as you sit here today?
So I think the biggest achievement for me was the piece that we spoke about just before I came into the program with you. So I think I was on holidays when I spoke to you first last summer, and I had some time to commit to something like this. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to start into it at a period where I was going to be busy. So where my wife and I were both back at work, where the kids were back in school. So I kicked off in September, and what I wanted to be able to do was at full tilt try to implement some change. And I think, the biggest achievement for me as part of this was looking at just a behavioral change. And the behavioral change was really trying to implement small but effective measures within my life on a day-to-day basis that would help me to take care of myself and would help me to improve, where I sat. So those that behavioral change is something that has become ingrained, and it's easy to say, but it's something I'm conscious of every day. There's various different parts to your program, Luke, in terms of nutrition, exercise, self-care, looking at your family and so on, looking at how you contribute to everything that's going on in your home life and being present there. But I think the biggest thing that it's brought to me is previously when I was working, it would be, or doing anything, it's all or nothing. Everything has to go on work today, and that's the only thing that matters, or this week. Whereas now I've become more conscious of, well, you got to take care of other parts of it as well. I think for me, that was the biggest piece, was that behavioral change. And even when I'm going through periods where things are intensely busy as well, some of those pieces still carry through. Maybe not everything, but some of the more important pieces will carry through. And while I'm not at the busier periods, when I'm not maybe making the incremental gains that I might like, I'm not regressing. I'm staying constant, and that's really important for me.
Yeah, you're not going backwards. And I think for me, what you just highlighted there, Mike, there's a couple of things which I love, was when we spoke, because some guys I might speak and they go, oh, well, or maybe I'll wait till things are a bit quieter, or I can make, and it's like, you're missing the point, because that isn't life. Life is when it's manic, busy, both you and your wife are really busy. And actually that you recognise that and reflect on that. So actually, no, I want to do this when that's kicking off. I don't want to start on holiday because it's actually not normal.
Really?
It's normal when things are hectic. And so that was refreshing. But I think what you just said there as well, which is really important, is having the habits and behaviours is paramount, right? And applying those when life's calmer and quieter, but that's okay and that's great. The key is when things are hectic and there's lots going on, and recognizing that, well, okay, right now, maybe I can't do all the things that I would like to do that ensure that I'm the best, physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever it is, But then, am I doing the best that I can given what I've got? And I think that's the key thing. It's like, say, it's not all there. And actually, when I'm flat out work, loads going on, and we've got these more intense times, is it realistic to expect myself to lose weight constantly, be on the ball all the time with everything? Probably not. But am I doing what I can given that and being okay with that? And then you can oscillate back up to the other state. So you're never regressing. You're always in a good spot because you're always comfortable with what you're doing for yourself, right?
Exactly. And that's the whole point. So I think for me, that was the biggest success. And that's really, I think, before I spoke to you, that's the piece that I wanted to address the most, because I knew if I could address some of that behavioral type stuff, I knew I'd be able to continue with this on an ongoing basis. I think some of the other success factors then, so I think one of the biggest things that I noticed for myself before I went into the program is just, I think, a number of years ago, I probably felt myself I was maybe happier, as in more jovial, more funny, better company. And I felt that I thought I was at a low point in regards to that in terms of my mood, my humor, and so on. And I think I got up like 4 or 5 weeks into the program. And I was just following the program. It's not, it's challenging, but it's not massively excessive. I was following the program normally, and my wife said to me one day that she felt my mood was better since then. I think it was 4 or 5 weeks in. So, for me, that was positive to hear, and it probably increased my motivation to continue, right? Because I was addressing some of the things that, you know, I think when I was probably in my 20s, maybe at times I felt I was a bit of a joker most of the time, and that was fun, right? But some of that was gone, and I felt I'd lost some of that spark. So having you know, a better mood, you know, you bring a better version of yourself to those around me, specifically my kids, my wife, but then also to others as well in the work environment. So that was another big achievement for me as part of the program, even though probably that wasn't you know, my number one focus. It's just something that happened.
Yeah, but you know, something you said at the start around that kind of erosion of yourself and how you feel, that's like that coming back online and being, sounds a bit wanky, but like reawakened or whatever, but it's not, because it's like that's been flattened because of work life, you know, the universe. And then I think the litmus test is someone else goes, you seem a bit happy and calm, you know, like, oh yeah, actually, yeah, I do, yeah. But that's, and not that you're doing it for external validation, but the reason why we want to be our best is for us, yes, but it's also for those around us that we love and care about. And when you see that happening as a direct byproduct, it's really empowering, and you feel like, oh, great, you know, I'm getting a bit of me back, right?
Exactly, and that was a big part of it, right? And as I said, that wasn't, you know, my initial motivation for doing this program at all, but it was a very positive byproduct of the whole experience. Of course, you know, one of the reasons that I also joined as well was clearly to address fitness and weight and things like that. So over the years, I've definitely put on weight over a long number of years, but it got to a point where I had to address it, right? So obviously there's a nutrition and a physical part to your program as well, and that was really effective for me. So the activities themselves are not massive, right? And you can push yourself as hard as you want, but it does require some attention and some dedication. And over the period of the program, which I think the initial program was 8 weeks, I lost 10 kilos over that period, which was, you know, a significant amount for me. I'm not perfect yet. I've got quite a ways to go, but you know, the whole point is to continue doing it until I get to a point where I'm happy, and that for me was a massive benefit as well. I needed to address that, not just from a health perspective, but also from a self-confidence perspective. It's something that does impact your self-confidence when you're not looking and feeling your best. So that was a key part of my motivation for starting this in the first place. Yeah. But I also achieved it.
And there's a few things there. I mean, one of them is that you said that it's not the only thing, but it's an important factor. And I think in personal development, sometimes people can skew one or the other way. There's the straight fitness, which is more like sort of fitness coaching, and then there's like, well, it's all mindset, and it's all about, you know, delving deep. And I think for me, if you want to be your best, it is about a holistic view. And to think that this doesn't have a bearing on this is madness. But it's not the only thing, right? And so it's making sure you have that balance, and you taking ownership around this. And just the other thing I wanted to touch on is like, you lost 10 kilos during the program, but it was when you were busy as fuck at work, and there was loads going on, and there was kids, and there was travel. Like that happened in what you would call as a suboptimal scenario, right? By suboptimal, it's just called life, as far as I'm concerned. But you were able to achieve it like that. And so there's that double thing of self-esteem. It's like, yes, I'm making progress to where I want to be. I'm looking better and feeling better, but I'm doing this in amongst the maelstrom of what happens. And I think that's also a real important thing to highlight, because it wasn't like you just went and lived in a cave for 8 weeks. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Like you were.
And that was the whole point. That was the whole point, right? And that's why I wanted to do it when I was at my busiest, and while things were just crazy, and that's why the program, I think, was so effective for me. And I think, you know, when we talked about it first, I wanted, you know, I think after we first talked, I said we'd started a week or two later, a couple of weeks later, just when I was back into the craziness. And when I did, I was that week or two, I was a little bit apprehensive, as in, you know, what the hell have I signed myself up for? This is going to just add more fuel to the fire of the craziness that is my life at the moment. But the nice thing about the program was that it was able to fit around all of that, everything else that was going on, right? And that was the key piece for me, because, as I said, I couldn't afford to just go to the gym for an hour and a half or an hour every day. That just wasn't going to happen for me. So that's where this program really worked for me.
Nice. Well, what would you say then, Mike? And it just speaks to where you're at, right? In a really good spot. So good chunk of change down, happy and more content. Like, and also knowing you've got a suite of behaviours that are serving you both now and long term for when life is busy and when it's not. Yeah. What's helped you achieve that? What's been the key things through the process that you think you've learned, or that's helped you get to this place?
Yeah, so I think the one message that I've taken through all of this, and I heard this from you and maybe another gentleman at the start of the program. So, you know, the weekly calls that we do, they're useful because people share some of their experiences, that what they're doing on a week-to-week basis. But I think the big thing that I heard was just do what you can, right? It's not about saying that I must do every single thing every single day, and if I'm not doing every single thing every single day, then I need to throw my hands up in the air and say it's all gone sideways. The big thing is just do what you can, and that's a message that I try to retain. It doesn't always work, right? Life gets in the way, work gets in the way, everything gets in the way. But being focused and being conscious on, today I might get in, a walk for 40 minutes. Tomorrow I might be able to do a little bit of a workout. I concentrate on my nutrition every day. All of those things are focused on just doing what you can. Sometimes just doing a little bit is everything you can do for that day. And that will, as you say to me all the time, Luke, doing 5 push-ups in the morning is better than doing no push-ups in the morning, right? So it's just that mentality is one thing that is that's kind of become ingrained in me, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, and you carry on, Mike, before I interrupt. I'll let you talk.
Sure. So that was a big one, and then I guess the part of what I wasn't expecting on this program, because as I said, I did, and this is something that came through as part of the program. I was doing this for health, fitness benefits, so that I could actually improve my physical shape, so I could lose weight, right? But there is an aspect to what you do. A big part of it is around mindset, right? And the mindset changes help you to do the physical parts as well. So, there's various different parts of the program that help you to focus on, different parts of your life, to look at your life. There's also some challenges thrown in there. So some nice spicy challenges that wake you up in the morning. But they're focused not just on the physical side of things. They're focused on trying to tough things out when you don't want to do it, right? And that mindset piece that you brought to the program, I found that really beneficial, because every day there's something related to looking at the mindfulness part of it that I practice, and I wasn't expecting that, right? I was expecting, right, and I know I need to go and work out 3 times a week or whatever it is, right? I know I need to do that, but I wasn't expecting to practice some of this stuff on an ongoing basis, and I found that really, really beneficial. And it helps me because some of those items where you focus on a day-to-day basis on yourself and on what you're supposed to be doing actually gives you more encouragement to do the things you're supposed to do, right? So that piece for me was really important, and it's not something I considered before the program, but was critical for me in getting through the program.
Yeah, I think, and this is what I touched on earlier. It's the sort of the sum of the parts, and it's like, well, this influences this, and this influences this, and it's looking at the whole piece holistically. Because you can just look at someone's life and go, right, go to the gym 3 days a week. Well, for some people that might be too hard anyway, because they don't quite have the time to fit that in. But it's like, doesn't address the underneath as to why it wasn't happening in the first place and get into the root of that, and that helps build that resilient mindset. Because actually, it's like, well, something's not working. If we can unpick it and work out why, well, then you can change it and move forward. But also, you don't just fall over at the first breath of problems. So, it's not working, so no. It's like, no. And most of the guys I work with, yourself including, Mike, within business, if you had a problem presented by your team or whatever else, you wouldn't just go, done, no. Like everyone's fired. You're like, no, what do we do? Let's work through it. Let's unpick it. What are we going to do next? And how are we different? How can we learn from this? What can we adapt? And it's about applying that kind of same rigor and thinking to yourself. And then that, for me, that also builds up self-esteem, because it's like, it shows you, and that's what feeds into do what you can. Well, if we unpick it and get to a why, there's probably always something I can do. And whatever scenario is being played out, I've got more autonomy and agency than I think. And I think for me, it's just a much more empowered place to sort of live your life and operate from.
100%. Could completely agree. That's the one thing that I took from it. I guess the third achievement that I had then, the third piece that was useful for me in helping me to achieve the goals was just some of the nutrition pieces, right? So some of the tracking that we did of nutrition, some of the suggestions that you had around how to do that. I mean, one of the most important pieces you said right at the outset is that you got to be satiated. You got to be able to do your exercise. You got to be able to work every day. No point starving yourself, but just make healthy choices, make good choices. And, even through the crazy busy times, I've been able to help maintain that. And it's useful. So that was, I guess, those 3 things were the biggest things that I took away from the program and helped me to get where I needed to get to.
Awesome. Well, I guess one final question, Mike, because I know you're a busy man. You've got lots, as we just said, you've got lots going on, so I don't want to take too much of your time. What would you say has been the most, and it's a bit of a curveball, but just, answer you on, was the most sort of surprising thing, or anything that having come through it, you go, oh, didn't that sort of shocked you or thought was different than you expected?
That's a good one. So I guess the biggest one, and this probably, yeah. So maybe I don't. Maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit for this, but I think that the coaching aspect of being involved with somebody on a program is massively beneficial, right? So in other areas of life, we look for coaches to help us. So, when I played sport, I had a coach, and the coach would help me and would point out places where I could improve. In business, you have coaches. They point out areas where you can improve. They help you along the way. And when it came to, myself, I never really thought, like, what the hell is a coach going to do? Like, I know what I got to do. I got to eat right. I got to exercise, and I got to do, find the time to do it. Simple. It sounds simple, but having a coach helping you through it is actually beneficial. So that was a big thing for me. And I think, for me, I don't like asking for help, right? I just don't. I just like to get on with things, do what I need to do. I think maybe part of my personality is that I see asking for help as possibly a weakness, which is clearly not. Yeah. It'll just help you improve. And I think, throughout the program, at various points in time, I needed to ask for help, and I was able to ask for help. And having a coach there to help you just points you back in the right direction when you're going slightly wrong, right? And I think that was probably the most surprising aspect of the whole lot. It wasn't somebody, like when I went to football training years ago and somebody would shout at you to sprint faster. That's not the type of coaching that we're looking for, right? It's pointing you, nudging you in the right direction, giving you advice on how to tackle the issues that you're facing. And I think the most surprising aspect of the whole thing was how much I benefited from that.
Yeah. And so something you said there, there's a Charlie Maxey quote, which is, asking for help isn't giving up, it's refusing to give up. And it's recognizing it's not actually weakness. It's like going, not actually, well, I could, the ego goes, I can't do it, so then maybe you shy away from it. And actually, it's when you feel like it's not working, we don't like how that feels. But then if you go, actually, maybe I need a bit of help. And then when you do, you go, oh, the other side of that, you feel great. And I think that's it. When you experience that, it's like, it doesn't have to be revelatory. And a lot of, I'm sure, with coaching, it's being told what's right there. But you can't always see it when you're in it. And sometimes, I always say this, I've got a coach, like, you ever work with a coach that hasn't got a coach, they're a fraud. Because who am I to help and charge a premium to help others? Am I the finished article? Am I fuck? No way. But and I need to tell him what's right there, just like everyone else does, But when you see that, sometimes you go, oh, really? But then you can't see it if you're in it, and that's a lot of the time the power of it, right?
Exactly. So yes, I think that was the most surprising piece. It was good.
Awesome. Well, Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting. I really appreciate you taking the time. Like I said, by all accounts, you've smashed it, and I'll continue to smash it. And we're doing a little bit more work together at the moment, and it's fantastic. And on with that will continue to where you want to get to. Before we move on, just say goodbye to be frank. And hopefully, anyone watching this has got a lot out of it, because I definitely have. It's been great, and it's really helpful to hear insights from you, because I can talk about the process as much as I want, but it helps others to see that. Let's say someone's watching this, they're maybe not feeling the best. What you described back when you first spoke to me, that's how they're feeling. But they're on the fence. They're a bit like, oh, coaching, what's that all about? What would you say to someone who kind of sort of knows they need some help, but they're not sure about sort of reaching out or asking for help? What would you say?
So I think for me, it's just do it, right? It's just grasp the nettle and just get on with it, because I think when I did eventually grasp the nettle, when I did eventually take that step and decide, look, I'm going to go ahead with this. As I said, I was apprehensive, but I was also looking forward to it, right? I wanted to do it, and that was the great part about it. I just got in the program, got on with it, and did it, and I felt way better for actually, even for signing up for it. Improve things for me, right? I just said, right, I just need to get on and do something. And I think that was the biggest thing for me. And at various points throughout the program, and you and I have talked about this at various points throughout it, and since, I feel like, things are just too busy. I just don't have time for this. I just can't do it. But backing away from it isn't going to make the issue go away. You really, and you have to, if you feel like that there is something you have to address, then that it is something you must do. So for me, it's just go ahead and take the plunge. It's like diving into a cold pool, right? You just gotta go do it.
Yeah, that fun stuff. Awesome, mate. Well, thank you. That's great. And just like I said there, I think something I heard the other day. It's like, if you think you've got a problem, you've got a problem, right? So it's like, well, and then it's about, am I going to do something about it, right? And
that's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure anyone watching has got a lot out of it. If anyone who's watching this, A, they've enjoyed the chat, and B, they're interested in talking to me about how I could help, all you need to do is drop me a note in the comments or drop me a DM. Otherwise, have a fantastic weekend, Mike. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Cheers, guys. Take care.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye.